tired of listening to me, so I brought in the heavyweight to answer some of the questions that we've been receiving. And first of all, it was difficult at times to read some negative quotes, but then I had to sit down and think about it, and what it really revealed is that we have a bunch of people that are very passionate about athletic therapy. So even the negativity, we have turned that it is a positive sign that athletic therapy is strong in Ontario, and we are going through this regulatory process to take it to the next level. So now we're going to address some of the questions that are still a little persistent, and hopefully we can put as many people's minds at ease as possible. So some people have some concerns that this may be greatly affecting athletic therapy in the long term. Don, can you respond to that?
Well, let's review the bidding for a moment. The board of the OATA decided a number of years ago that it was important for the future of athletic therapy to be regulated along with its peers under the Regulated Health Professions Act. I think that that was a wise decision because as the future unfolds, it's going to become increasingly difficult from an educational perspective, from a professional liability insurance perspective, from a third-party insurance perspective, for an unregulated profession to survive in Ontario, and in Canada for that matter. So regulation, I think, is actually the way to preserve the future of athletic therapists and athletic therapy. Now, as you know, the profession, the athletic therapy profession in Ontario is too small to justify its own college, so the profession had to look for another college to join. After talking with a number of colleges, it came down to the College of Kinesiologists. That was the easiest college for athletic therapists to join because of a solid majority, in fact, much more than a majority of athletic therapists already meet the eligibility criteria for joining the CKO. So over the last number of years, the OATA has negotiated with the CKO that in the first instance, athletic therapists may register with the CKO to be registered kinesiologists and continue to use the athletic therapist title and continue to practice athletic therapy. If a critical mass of athletic therapists do join the CKO, then the next step is to apply for and hopefully receive an AT specialty within the CKO, which would protect the athletic therapist title for members of that profession. And ultimately, the goal is to evolve towards a class of members within the CKO for athletic therapy that would, in all of these steps, enhance title protection for athletic therapists, which is critically important for the future of the profession, and also enhance the ability to obtain an athletic therapist scope of practice.
So a number of our members are sitting on the fence as to whether they should join the college or not. If they decide to stay outside of the college, Don, what happens to those people?
Well, in the first instance, those who do not register with the CKO may continue to use the AT athletic therapist title as they currently do now. If a specialty is created, then subject to negotiations with the CKO, but if a specialty is created, then it is likely that only members of that specialty will be authorized to use the AT title. And if a class of members is established, which would be several years in the future in any event, then it's virtually certain that only members of that class could use the AT title. There's all kinds of combinations and permutations of approaches to this in terms of grandparenting people who have used the title for a significant period of time, having a separate registry, but all of this is dependent on having at least a critical mass of athletic therapists who register with the CKO But in the first instance, as I said, those who decide not to join the CKO will be able to continue to use the athletic therapist title and practice athletic therapy as they do now.
One question that we did receive is questioning whether CATA owns OATA. That just shows a little bit of a lack of understanding of the structure of the OATA and CATA. We're completely separate organizations. We have our own bylaws. We have agreed to a working relationship out of, at first, was necessity. CATA needed or felt it was necessary for provincial chapters or regional chapters to ensure that each region had their say and what was unique to each region. So that was a natural progression of creating regional chapters. But in no way does CATA own the OATA, no more than the OATA can tell CATA what we want done. They have to run their own mandate. The OATA runs our own mandate. The CATA support for our regulation effort has been fantastic. Dale Patura, our current president, has been in contact with our board weekly, and he supports all chapters becoming regulated. There is a movement within Quebec. They have a form of regulation that is different than what we have in Ontario. So the CATA recognizes that there's an absolute need for athletic therapy to be regulated, but they are also cognizant that there are nuances within each province, and that became apparent to them when they're going through the possibility of creating a regulatory body across the country. Is just that there are too many nuances. Plus, healthcare is a mandate of the province. So a national program for regulation just can't work in Canada.
Apply to the CKO. The CKO will determine whether you meet the minimum threshold. If you do not, the CKO will contact you and tell you what you can do to make up the difference in order to achieve eligibility, but apply.
The Sheridan program that was 2 years and then 3 years is very close to being equivalent. We haven't had a lot of feedback from CKO with that in particular. I've personally gone through all of the courses for the 3-year program, and it is very close. So I think in your best interest, if you are from the 3rd-year program, submit it, and the CKO will probably have some suggestions as to what you may need. So go through the process. All of your courses for the 3-year program are now on the OATA website. If you do not have a kin degree, you have to do the academic equivalency form.
A 4-year kin degree.
Yes, thanks, Don. A 4-year kin degree. So you have to complete that academic equivalency form. Now, Don has some commentary about that.
If you're uncertain as to whether you meet the eligibility criteria or if there are bits and pieces that are missing, that's fine. It's important that you get your application in before the grandparenting period expires on the 31st of March. So get your application in, and then anything that's missing or anything that has to be adjusted or any questions that have to be answered can happen after the 31st of March, but at least you have satisfied the requirements for registering with the college within the grandparenting period. From day one, with respect to this regulation exercise, the OATA board has made it clear that they want to leave no AT behind. By that, they mean that any AT that wishes to register with the CKO should be allowed to do so. There are various gradations of competencies and training of ATs. Only some of those ATs, a large proportion, a substantial majority of those ATs are eligible to join the CKO. Once we have a critical mass of ATs who have joined the college, who have registered with the CKO, we have had preliminary discussions about how the others can be accommodated within the CKO. At this time, it would be inappropriate to talk about what those arrangements are. I simply want to assure you that the board has told us, and we have heard, that their objective in this exercise is to leave no AT behind, and the next step in this exercise is to ensure that that in fact does happen.
So for those people that are sitting on the fence, and whether you haven't joined yet, we know that you have to have the application form filled out. You have to pay your jurisprudence, the $50 module. Have to go through that. It does take 4 hours to grind through that. You have to pay the $100 application fee. You also need to start the academic equivalency form. The academic equivalency is only if you do not have a 4-year kin degree. But if that is in place, that is the bare minimum to get yourself in before the grandparenting period expires. So please go through that, get yourself in the queue. We can sort all that stuff out afterwards, but if you choose to sit outside of this grandparenting thing and then change your mind, you will have to sit the entrance exam. You'll have to pay the extra $400. Throughout this whole process, the support from the CG group has been awesome. I want to thank Dawn, who's been very patient in taking all our questions. Ashton has been super because he's been the brunt of a lot of the phone calls, and Nancy for guiding us through this whole process.